Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to your calendars franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we took on the Ottawa Senators in the conference finals, and unfortunately we lost the series, and Ottawa went on to win the Stanley Cup, so at least we lost to the best team in the entire league technically. But it's been pretty disappointing the last few years with this team because we haven't been able to find a way to win that Stanley Cup still, and we're in 2040, which is also kind of insane. So I don't know what it's going to take to get this team a Stanley Cup, because we have a very good roster on paper. Just for some reason we cannot find our way to a Stanley Cup win. I don't know if we're still getting cursed from Lou Lamoriello back in the day or whatever, but this has been a really weird series for sure, because if we look at our playoff runs, you can see 4 of the last 5 years we've had some pretty deep runs, but we have no cup to show for it. So I honestly don't really know what to make of that, considering if you look at a roster on paper, you can see we have a lot of elite talent on this roster, and we do still have even guys coming from the AHL too. So like, this is a strong team, but for some reason they just cannot find a ways to win in the playoffs, and we have guys coming up from the AHL even next season that will jump into the lineup, so maybe that will help things a little bit, but I'm not really too sure what the main reasoning is to why we lose games in the postseason. Is it the coach? Is it the roster on paper? Is there somebody that needs to go that we don't know about? I'm really not too sure, but we definitely need to find a way to win a Stanley Cup relatively soon, because we are kind of approaching near the end of the series, because there's probably around like 9 seasons left of this, maybe 8 seasons, so not a lot of time left to win a Stanley Cup. But anyways, before we get into another offseason, maybe making some tough decisions and all that, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into the draft and resign stage and see what we got to do. So the first and only comment is from Dylan Burrows, who says, well, you don't have to worry about your players getting re-injured if they are out of the playoffs. I mean, I don't want to sound like a jerk, but he might have been a difference maker. So he's talking about Bjorkstrand, because Bjorkstrand was technically playable in the last game of the series against the Sens, but I decided not to play him because I didn't want him to get re-injured. So I honestly don't know if it would have been a good idea to play him or not. Maybe it would have been, but also if he would have gotten re-injured, then he would have missed the rest of the playoffs, and we could have lost in the Cup Finals instead, which might not have been much better, to be honest. So I don't really know if it would have been better to throw him into the lineup for that last game or not. It does suck that we lost. I'm hoping that Bjorkstrand can start to be a little bit more healthy, because obviously last season he missed a lot of games. This year in the playoffs, he also missed a good chunk of games, so definitely need him to be a little bit more healthy. Also, hopefully he can pick up his offense a little bit, because his stats aren't really the most insane in the world. He's a good player, but he's not like the best player I've ever had on a roster. So I do want some guys to maybe take that next step, which hopefully we could get some of these guys taking that next step soon, because maybe the problem with our team is we don't have that one high end forward that's picking up like over 100 points in a season. We are getting guys like Crane who are doing really well still, but we don't have that superstar level player that's like literally up there in like points and all that during the league. So maybe that's what we still need on this roster. I'm really not too sure, but I know that we need to find a way to at least get one Stanley Cup before we start having guys drop off, because obviously Crane and Houghton are both 30 years old, and then in terms of goaltending, Solovyov is already 32 years old, so Solovyov might be on the drop-off relatively soon, which is not great. So definitely got to find a way to win soon while we still have those guys, and while they're actually still in their prime, because once they start to drop off, we probably will have a less of a chance to win. Maybe we're too good of a team. That could also be maybe a problem in this franchise mode, because sometimes if you have a team that's way too good, they end up not winning Stanley Cups. They end up just like going out early in the playoffs. So maybe we need to make ourselves a little bit more dumbed down in a sense, but I'm not really too sure what we would want to get rid of to basically make us worse. The good thing for us, we don't have a lot of money that we need to re-spend this offseason, which is kind of nice, because the one player that's going to get a lot of money is Seal Fido and probably Korolyuk. Everybody else here probably doesn't get a ton of money. Haley might not even come back to the roster just because of the emergence of some of the guys from the AHL, so I'm really not too sure how expensive this offseason is going to be aside from Seal Fido for the most part. So going to be interesting to see what our roster is looking like into next season. I might re-sign some of these guys like Jarvis and stuff like that, or Sundin, but we could easily replace these type of guys, so maybe we just like go some of them to free agency depending on their age and all that and what they're asking for. So there might be a little bit of changes in the bottom 6, but I feel like most of this roster will come back again for next season unless we decide to make some trades in the free agency portion. So with that said, let's get on into this draft. I don't know if it's going to be really a strong draft for us, but to be honest, we have a really good prospect pool, so it doesn't hurt to have a bad draft here and there. And then hopefully, like I said, the Resign stage, we could get some stuff done. Like, I hope that I could get Cielfido on a long-term deal if possible, because I do really like Cielfido. I might have to give him a clause just like a lot of the other guys on this roster, but I think he kind of deserves it in a way, so... Anyways, Edmonton's got the first overall pick, followed by Nashville, San Jose, Minnesota, and Calgary. So let's see what this year's top 5 is looking like, because I don't think we're going to try and move up at all. I don't think, at least. Who did I have on my draft board? Lazarev. Oh, yeah, I think this guy was actually supposed to be decent, right? Maybe not. 2 years out. That's not bad, but we do have 2 first-round picks this year as well, 15th and 30th. We could try and move up if we really want to. But I don't know if it's worth it or not. What type of player is Lazarev even anyways? He's supposed to go right here. He could be an elite player. Maybe it is worth moving up to get him. Left winger that shoots right. Maybe we will try and move up a couple spots, but I don't know if he's actually going to be an elite player or not. It's really tough to say, because if he's 2 years out, he could literally be just a top 6 that has a high overall, so... I don't know if he's worth moving up for. There's some other guys as well that we could easily take, like Howes, who's a right wing center. Honestly, I might be okay with taking somebody like this guy instead, because we do need more right wingers and centers, I feel like, than we do need left wingers. Left wingers are a little bit full in terms of depth and all that, so maybe he'd be the better option for us. There's also Dupuis, who's a center slash right winger, but shoots left, so hypothetically he could play on the left wing as well. Also Chubarov. So we have a lot of different options we could go to. So I probably will just keep with our picks. Even if we end up getting like a top 6 forward or a top 4 defenseman, it's not the end of the world. So we don't necessarily need more medium elites and low elites anyways. So yeah, I think we're going to keep with our normal picks. So let's see what the Oilers have at number 1. What are they going to select? They select a two-way defenseman by the name of Parise. Pierre Parise. What a name. I wonder if he's going to be on the power play. Because he's PP, you know. But yeah, looks pretty good. Good shot power. Not the best accuracy yet, but looks like a standard two-way defenseman. All right. Nashville at number 2. What are they going to select? Conklin. Damn, this guy's actually even the better of the 2 players. He's an 82 overall left-wing power forward with medium elite potential. So Charles Conklin off to Nashville. I think this player has the chance to be becoming probably the best player of this draft class just based on his attributes. He looks very strong. He also has some X factors. Like, I could definitely see this guy being a very good goal scorer down the road. So there is Charles Conklin. San Jose at number 3 is going to select Moore. 80 overall center power forward. Reed Moore. Does he get the Reed Moore? That's funny, actually. It's just like, when you don't have enough books, you got to read some more, I guess. I don't even know. But there you go. There's Reed Moore. Minnesota at 4 is going to select Beck, who is an offensive defenseman. Okay. Shannon Beck, who's got Spinorama. Spinorama on a defenseman is always kind of funny. Just makes me think of Doug Wilson, I think it is, right? I don't know, Serge Savard. Serge Savard was a forward, but I think there was a defenseman that had a good Spinorama goal too, other than Brian Campbell. I just can't remember who it was. Maybe I am thinking of Serge Savard. I don't know. But Serge Savard, I think, was a forward, right? So, anyways, next pick, Calgary at 5 is going to select Gogol, who's in 78 overall left-wing sniper. Silas Gogol. Interesting. All right, make it snappy all alone. Okay. Let's simulate to our pick at 15th. This is the pick we got from the Dallas Stars in the trade involving Anton Frondels. So, this would be part of the trade tree if you guys wanted to make a trade tree, I guess. But before this pick, it's basic players. A high 9 went 9th overall. Damn. That's a bit of a whiff pick from Detroit. But yeah, this draft class is definitely not super strong, because outside of the top 5, nobody's been elite so far. Alright, so that means we are going to be able to have our choice on what we want to take between Howes, Dupuis, and Chubarov. The guy that we were looking at before, though, ended up only being... Wait, was it this dude? Was it Lazarev? Yeah, I think it was Lazarev we were looking at, right? He's not necessarily the best. He's just a top 6, so... Couldn't have made a better selection, really. So, Howes, Dupuis, or Chubarov? Now, Chubarov could be a low elite. Tough to tell. But he is 3 years out, so I feel like he's a guaranteed top 6. Dupuis could play right wing and center. He could also probably play left wing because he's a left-handed shot. 6'3", 188, 18 years old. Looks like pretty standard. 2 B- stats, a 1 B. And then there is Peyton Howes, who looks pretty much the exact same, I think. Maybe not. Let's take a look at Dupuis. Dupuis is probably a little bit better on the skating department, and that's going to make the difference in overall. Now, the reason I would choose Howes over Dupuis is just because his primary position is right wing playmaker. I feel like I have a lot of two-way forwards at the moment. Let me double check that actually for a time, just to see if we have too many two-way forwards. Like if we go to offer trade and look at our player types on our roster, do we have a lot of two-way forwards? I wish there was a way to sort by player types. Oh, wait, here there is. Okay, so yeah, we have a lot of two-way players on this roster. A lot of two-way forwards. We probably don't have enough playmakers, right? We have a decent chunk of playmakers, but not as much as two-way forwards. So I think a playmaker maybe would be a little bit better just because we have a lot of two-way forwards. So I think I'm going to go for the right-wing center. And also the fact that he's AHL eligible kind of right away is kind of nice. Dupuis, on the other hand, I would have to wait till he's actually NHL ready. Or not NHL ready, AHL ready. So I think we're going to go with Peyton Howes with this selection. Looks like he could be pretty decent. I feel like he's probably just a generic top 6, but still could end up being something decent for us. And it also helps our forward group, which is probably something we want to look into, obviously, a little bit with some more help from the prospect pool. So Peyton Howes, welcome aboard. Boom. 65 overall right wing playmaker, pretty solid. It is better than the defenseman that just went before and just a bit worse than Lazarev. So pretty much right around where he's supposed to go. Looks pretty good on paper. 77 passing out of the draft is actually pretty nice too. So yeah, I don't mind that. He's probably not going to play in the AHL next season, but he could probably in a year or so. So yeah, I like that selection. Think he could be decent for our team. And I think another good reason to draft forwards in this draft is because last year we drafted, I think it was a ton of defensemen, or there was 1 year for sure we drafted a lot of defenders. So addressing our forward group is probably something we want to do, especially with some guys getting up there in age like Crane. So let's see what goes after our selection. We'll also look at our next pick, obviously, here soon. Damn, a lowly Grinder and Blanchard just went to Chicago. I don't know if I really would have needed a Grinder in somebody like Braxton Blanchard. What a name. Braxton Blanchard. Damn. Okay. Yeah, that would have been an interesting player, but I don't know if I really care too much about lowly grinders. They sometimes don't really develop. Still would have been interesting, though. Aside from that, after our pick, Chubarov was an 80, or not an 84, a 64. What am I saying? An 84. Dupuis was a 66. I expected him to be a little bit better because of that skating attribute, and he is. He is actually a sniper, too, not a two-way forward. So that could have been nice to have, I guess. If I knew he wasn't a two-way forward, I would have maybe taken him. Like, if I knew he was a sniper, maybe that's something I would have looked into just because he could be maybe something for the top 6 in terms of goal scoring, but it is what it is. Then Bayer was a 65 sniper. Moz was a grinder. Henricius was a playmaker. All right. Okay, let's make our next selection. See what we can get here with our second first round pick. So there's some medium 9s that are guaranteed, but I do not really want to take them unless I have to. So let's see if there's anybody off the board here that's a little bit more interesting. Oh yeah, there's the low lead sniper. I forgot I pinned this guy. Connor Trotter. He's not going to be the highest overall of the gate because he does have only really good shooting and puck skills, but he's probably still like at least a 63, my guess. So yeah, Connor Trotter is going to be definitely our selection here. He is only a left winger, but maybe we could try and get him to become a left wing, right wing if we want to at some point. Because yeah, he's probably the best selection we could get here. So let's go with Connor Trotter with this next selection. He's also HL eligible right away, which is kind of nice in case he has good overall. So Trotter, welcome aboard. And he's a 65, so never mind. He's not actually a low overall. So that's a pretty good pick. We could have easily probably taken him in the first selection we had, but didn't even remember that I had him pinned. So looks pretty good. 2.5-star shooting. All pretty even across the board, and except for his wrist shot accuracy is a little bit better than everything else. Aside from that, a lot of other good attributes. His offensive awareness obviously needs work, but he could end up becoming a pretty good goal scorer for us, I feel like, being a low lead sniper. So I like that a lot. And like I said, maybe we could try and get him to play right wing as well at some point in time. All right, let's simulate to our next pick at 62. The only pick we don't have this year, I think, was our 6th round pick, so we technically have picks in every round for the most part. This low 4, Milan Jersina, not the guy that used to play for the Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins, the New York Islanders, and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Yes, I had to list every single team. But this guy apparently is listed as a gem, as a low 4. I have seen low 4s pan out when they're listed as gems, so that might not be a bad selection. Now, it's kind of interesting because he's a right D, but he shoots left. So maybe he's a guy I would take here. But there's also another guy that could be a little elite here in Sundqvist. 5 years out. Anybody else I had pinned around this point? Does not really look like it. There's another gem in Hensick who's a low 4 as well. But he's not supposed to go till later. I honestly might go with the low 4. I know I've been saying we need to draft more forwards, but maybe I go for the defenseman here. Because how good is Sundqvist looking on paper? I think it said he was 5 years out. And he's another two-way maybe, so I don't feel like I need another two-way forward that much, especially on the left wing. He does shoot right, but I think I'm going to go for the low 4, which it might be a little bit controversial, but gives us another guy that might end up developing into be more of a top 6 kind of defenseman for us, because I don't think he's going to be a top 4, but he could end up being something like Narena was in my Albuquerque series, so I will take a chance on him here in the 2nd round. Boom. 64 overall, that's not too bad. Pretty good starting point. He is a DFD, so I don't expect him to pick up much offense, but this guy could literally be like the real-life Milan Jersina, which is kind of funny. He's got like the size to him as well, just like the other Milan Jersina too, so there he is. Don't expect much offense, but I think he could become maybe a decent shutdown defenseman if he develops in the right way. All right, let's simulate to our next pick at 94. See if we can find anything in this 3rd round. Damn, we just missed out on a medium elite goalie. Let's actually take a look at how good Sundqvist was as well. So aside from that, there's a lot of low 4s going, medium 9s. Anybody got a crazy steal here? Or no? Not really. There's another medium. Oh, Sundqvist was medium elite. I wasn't too sure because of the fact that it said that he was 3-bar medium elite. I was not certain on that, but that would have been kind of nice. Medium elite playmaker, left winger that shoots right. Probably made the wrong selection taking a low 4 over this guy, but I don't think it's the worst pick in the world because this guy is still ways away from making it. Like 52 overall is quite low, so at least we're kind of getting better now instead of waiting 5 years for this guy to develop. But damn, that would have been a really nice pickup if I actually knew that he was elite. Like if I knew for sure that he was medium elite, I definitely would have taken him. But I thought that he was going to become like a medium 9 or a low 9 or something instead. So Cleary, damn, that's a pretty good late 1st round pick. Low elite, 65 overall, 2-way forward. Okay. Looks like there were some solid steals in this draft, but not the best draft still in the world. All right, in our next selection, we've seen some medium elite goalies going, but we have a lot of oh my goodness, that's so hard to pass up on though. Oli Barkov, what a name. 3 years out, might be an elite goalie, has looks like great attributes. It's hard to say no to that. It really is, because I know we have goalie prospects, but what's the problem with taking another one? Like, who do we have for goalie prospects right now out of our prospect pool? If I go offer trade for a second. Because I feel like we maybe do need more goalie prospects. I know we have like 1 goalie prospect at least, right? Oh, we actually have a lot still. Well, once Solovyov retires or leaves his team, we have Komatov, we have Nicholas. Technically, Schultz, I don't know if he'll really develop in anything. He's decent-ish right now. Vishnevsky definitely won't develop. Maybe I could deal with another elite goalie prospect and just wait a few years for him to develop. You know what? I think I'm going to take another elite goalie. I know it's kind of weird because we have so much of them, but might as well stock up on them. And then maybe one other team in the NHL needs an elite goalie at some point, and maybe we could trade him. But let's take a chance on Oli Barkov. He might honestly not even be an elite goalie. He could easily be like a backup goalie with a high attribute, but I feel like he's definitely better than that. I don't think he's an elite goalie. I feel like he could be like a starter. He could be a fringe starter with good attributes, but those attributes are just too hard to pass up on, so that's why I'm taking Barkov here. So let's go with Barkov, the Finnish goaltender. Boom. Medium fringe starter. See, I didn't think he was going to be a starter. He's a fringe starter, 66 overall, so I don't even know if he's going to become a future goalie for this team, but he could be a goalie somewhere around the league, so he should have a decent amount of trade value because he's young still, and he's got a good overall, but you never know. Maybe he changes into a starter at some point, so does suck though that he's not elite though, because if he would have been elite like this Conroy guy, that would have been a slam dunk of a pick, but unfortunately it's not. All right, 126 now, 4th round. Can we find any steals in this later part of this draft? Because this is probably when it's going to start dipping a lot in quality, which already looks the case. Hervinen's another fringe starter. I don't want to need another goalie, and this guy's got good attributes too, but I don't really need more goalies. There's another goalie here too that's listed as a gem. Not going to take him. It's another Finnish goaltender too. A lot of good Finns here in this draft class. Is there any actual good potential guys? Oh yeah, there's that Grummet Morris guy that I had pinned. I could probably take him next round, because there's a chance that this guy's a lowly just because he's got 2-bar medium franchise right now. There's also Grollo, who's supposed to go late, so we could take somebody else, and then we could take Grummet Morris. Grollo's supposed to go early 7th round, though. You know what? I think I'm going to take Grollo already. And then next round, I'm going to take Grummet Morrison in the 7th round. We're going to have to see if we can find a steal here. So let's go for Jacques Grollo. He's a gem. He might be a little elite. So let's take a chance on him. Boom. He is a little elite. 51 overall right-wing playmaker. All right. It's not too bad. Gives us more elite prospects because we already don't have enough of those, right? Literally more than half of our roster is elite player prospects. So it's actually kind of insane how many elite players we have in this organization. So welcome aboard to Jacques Grollo. He's only 17 too. So the good thing about him is he could develop into being something pretty good considering he's so young still. All right, our next selection at 158, we're going to take that other guy. And then, like I said, 7th round, we'll probably have to go completely off the board and find somebody. But I do want to take this Terrence Grummet Morris dude. He's 19 years old. He's probably a low elite. He also can play left wing and right wing, which is kind of useful. So let's take a chance on Grummet Morris. Boom. Low elite 53 overall. So there we go. There we go. That's a pretty good pick. He's also a playmaker too, so another low elite joins the prospect pool. He's pretty big, 6'4", 192. Just a giant stick, huh? Alright, let's simulate to pick 222. Damn, that might be a lucky pick, you never know. 222, I don't think I picked at 222 before. Let's see if we could find a crazy steal here that could be a low elite. There's only a couple guys that could be, maybe Aiden Rowe. Could be an interesting selection here. We don't really need any goalie prospects. This guy's 3 years out, though, so he could be a decent player, but we already have a lot of goalie prospects. Clutterbuck is 20 years old. Don't really want a 20-year-old. And then there's another goalie prospect in Ruben Noonan, which is kind of fun to say, but I think I should probably go for Rowe here. So I think that's what we're going to go for. He's probably going to be like a bottom 6 forward or something like that, but let's go with Aiden Rowe with our last selection here at 222. Low top 9. 57 overall, left wing grinders. So probably not going to become much, but you can't get a good player with every single pick usually. So in general, I'd say that was an okay draft class for us. Obviously not the most insane one we've had. But Howes as a top 6 forward prospect, think he could be decent. Trotter as a low elite sniper. I like that pick. Low 4 and Jersina is up in the air. He could become something, but we could have gotten a medium elite left wing playmaker instead. So it's like maybe Jersina is not going to be that great. Barkov is a high overall medium fringe starter. Is not bad, but I don't know if he'll become a starting goalie for us. Maybe he will be a backup goalie at some point. Tough to say. And then Grollo and Grummet Morris both having low elite potential is decent. So I think in general, I'm happy with most of that draft class. So there is our draft for 2040. Now we got to get to the resign stage, which, like I said, I'm kind of anticipating Seal Fido to ask for a decent chunk of money. We do got to bring back almost all of our coaches, so let's go ahead and do that. Maybe that's something we look into in next episode, is finding another coach that might be able to push Jenks to an assistant coach job, because we do need to find a way to get a coach that actually wins games in the playoffs too. Like, this guy could only have so many opportunities, right? Bo Horvat's still going to be our assistant coach, though. He's not going to be our head coach yet. But it's kind of fun that we still have Bo here after all these years when he was with the Islanders too. So I like that. Maybe that's why we're losing, because he was with his teams that weren't winning in the playoffs. I don't really know. Let's re-sign Kubalik for the AHL. He is an AHL head coach. So we'll give him some money. There we go. And then we also need Duras as our associate. So we'll get you guys both back for the AHL team. The AHL team had really bad season last year, I think it was, so maybe we want to rework the coaching staff down there. But there is that. What about scouts? Oh man, a lot of scouts. Which means get ready to see a lot of pop-ups when we're going through the re-sign stage about scouts re-signing. Okay, so first and foremost, Bennett Reed will sign you back up here, as well as Michaela Masulis. What about Bertram? Yes. Maddox Bertram. If your first name is Maddox, that's a pretty dope first name. What else do we got? Di Salvatore? Nope. Boileau? Yes. Mathieu Boileau, who is probably from Quebec. And he does scout the QMJHL, so that makes sense. Jonathan Thompson, the most white name ever. What else we got here? Cody Trevelyan. We'll sign you back up. What about Gagnon? Nope. Clark? Nope. Mahalik? Yes. Martina Mahalik. Venkachan? Nope. Marsh? Yes. Taylor Marsh, another white name. What else we got here? Tobias Benda, the most German name ever. Wengernowski? Yes. Mohammed Wengernowski. Such a funny name, that one. Doesn't really make any sense. Grice. Akeem Grice might be German as well. Tapper, no, and that is it. Perfect. So that was all the scouts that needed money. Now let's see how much money do we got to sign our players back on this organization. We have $21 million, so not really a ton of money. We are going to sign Dempsey, who is one of our unsigned prospects. He's not AHL eligible, but I am going to still sign him because I think he could jump up a lot in overall. Aside from that, I think everybody else is going to stay unsigned in this list for now. So we'll leave that. RFAs, we might have to free up some roster space potentially, but we are going to look at Cialfido's contract here first. What does Cialfido want now? Only a 2-year deal. So Cialfido kind of wants to be leaving his team in a few years. If I go anything more than that, his interest kind of drops off a lot. So I don't think I could really give him a long-term deal yet, which is unfortunate because if I go to 8 years, he wants $17 million. So I think a 2-year deal is okay for me to give to him, but I'm kind of worried that we might lose Cialfido relatively soon. We're going to give him this, but I think we are going to potentially lose him down the road. But that might not be a big problem with the prospects we have coming. So we're going to give him a trial run in, I guess, 2-year deal. And we're going to just knock this down by a lot, because he does have a lot of organizational interest, but he just, for some reason, doesn't want a lot of term yet. So we will get him to maybe like 8.55 for 2 years, which is not really that bad, to be honest. So let's give him that, see if he accepts that. Aside from that, Korolyuk, what do you want? Not too much either. You would be a UFA at the end of the year. You have been getting better every single season. Let's give you a 1-year deal like you're asking for. Sure, I'm fine with that. And we will give you $18.50. That's a decent chunk of money. Everybody else here should be 2-way contracts, I think. So we'll just give them that on 1-year deals. Just to make sure that we have rooms for more prospects that are eventually coming. This guy wants 2 years. He'll take it. Sure. Tuominen, 1-year deal. Take the money. Thank you. Goalies, no RFA goalies. UFAs. We do got to sign Nicholas for the AHL, so that's what we're going to definitely do because he's got high elite potential. Excited to see him in the minors next season. We are going to let go of Letowski. Letowski was an okay backup his first season when we acquired him from Anaheim, but last year didn't really do too much for me in the regular season, and his playoff numbers weren't very good when he was replacing Solovyov. So we are going to let go of Letowski. Best of luck to him in free agency. We might be able to bring him back if we really want to. Aside from that, UFAs, I'm not going to sign this low 4 in Klingberg. Oh man, we have so many elite prospects. Jeez. Popov needs an ELC for sure. He's a 70 at 20. Lindsay's a 69 at 20. He's definitely getting his as well. Oh, Lindsay played in the same area that Dempsey did. That's kind of neat. And Sault Ste. Marie. And Hilbert, he's only a 66 at 21 as a low elite. He's not very good, but we might as well sign him. And we will sign Granado this low 4. He's developed actually kind of nicely, so we'll sign him up. We'll also sign Nielsen to his ELC. We're running out of contract spaces completely. Damn. And we'll also sign Erzberg because he's got medium elite potential, which means some AHL guys are going to be let go of here. Unfortunately, that means we're going to be letting go of Rokan. We're going to be letting go of Amadio. We're going to be letting go of Rollins. We're going to be letting go of Kadri. And we're going to be letting go of Prince. All those AHLers I'm letting go of just because we have young guys replacing them. At some point, the AHL team would have had to go through a rebuild anyways. And aside from that, we have these guys that are NHLers that are UFAs. Ulanov, I wouldn't mind bringing back. He was not too bad. Why does he want a modified no trade clause? He's literally only played like one season in the NHL and he already thinks he could get a modified no trade clause. That's kind of strange. I mean, he was not bad, like I said, but I don't know about a modified no trade clause. I mean, at least it's modified so I could still trade him to teams. It seems just weird, though, giving him a 2-year deal and a modified no trade clause where he could be dealt to 28 other teams. And he's literally going to be getting paid, like, less than $1.5 million, potentially. I think I'm going to give him it, but it's kind of a weird contract to give. I know it's a modified no trade clause, but like I said, 10% is not really much of anything. He's also not making a lot of money, so should be an easily movable deal if we really want to. So let's do it, considering he's only 25. Hagman is kind of a weird one. I think I probably will let him go. We only brought him in for the depth purposes, but there's probably guys that are going to replace him in the system, I guess. Let's see. Let's look at the defensive core in the prospect pool. Maybe we do need to resign him. We do need more defensive prospects in the AHL, technically. Because I did let go of a bunch. Actually, never mind, because Carlson and Carlton. Yeah, Carlson and Carlton would be down there. It's a bit of a tongue twister saying their names. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with Hagman. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I need Hagman back or not. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Technically, he would still be our 7th, but I think he's listed as a top 6 now, right? I think that's the problem. Let's see. Yes, he's listed as top 6. So even though he was pretty good for us in the regular season through 9 games, plus 3 points, I think I have to let him go just because he's listed as top 6. If he was listed as a depth defenseman, he could come back, but it's just I don't want him losing morale due to ice time. So we're going to let him go for the time being. Aside from that, we have Sundin, Jarvis, and Haley. Sundin is not a bad option just to keep around as a depth forward. 3 points in 4 games in the playoffs, was it? No, regular season. Playoffs, he played 14 games, had 3 points. He's not bad. He's actually got pretty good defensive awareness. I probably would let go of Jarvis and hold on to Sundin just because of the age. So, yeah, let's give Sundin what he's asking for a little bit. Let's just lower it, though, just so we could save some money for free agency. I think I'm going to let go of Jarvis. Jarvis is not bad, like I said, but we could probably replace him. He only played 2 games during the season. Playoffs, he played 13, 4 goals. Also played some time in the AHL. Wasn't very good in the AHL. So, you know, I'm going to let him walk. He could come back, but not yet. Just because there is some guys from the AHL that are going to be taking spots over. And then the big one for UFAs is Riley Haley. He was not too bad for us through 55 games, 26 points. Playoffs, he had 5 points in 10 games. Like, he's not a bad option, but I think he's going to want too much money. Let's see. That's not bad, but it is a bit more term than I'd like. Because if we look at a roster on paper for next season already, technically we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with Korliuk, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with Kazanov, maybe 11 with Mashenko, and 12, 13, 14. I don't think there's enough room for him on the roster, just because of the emergence of Kazanov and Mashenko potentially. So I think even though I did like how Haley played with us, I just don't think I could find a way to realistically hold on to him. So I'm going to send him to free agency and let him sign somewhere else probably. Like I said, he's a pretty solid player. Like, he only just started playing in the NHL, I guess, a while back, but he's gotten some pretty good production seasons as of late. At least in Anaheim, he had 43 points one year. So he's not a bad player. I just don't think he really fits what we need anymore at this point. So let's send him to free agency, and that'll also save us a little bit more money. So let's advance today and see if the big one, which is Cialfito, accepts, because he's the big one. But it's unfortunate we're only going to be able to sign him for like 2 years. So hopefully all our coaches are accepting too. I'm not really reading what they're saying, but we'll see if they accept too. As we also have all these scouts to look at too, which is kind of annoying. I still wish the scouts pop-up stuff doesn't even pop up like this. Like, I wish it kind of popped up in the corner or something like that if they accept, because it's just too much. So Cialfito's on board for the next 2 years, which is good, but it is also a little bit risky that he could head to free agency. But maybe by that time period, we have Kazanov in that spot anyways, so might not be the end of the world, but kind of wish I was able to hold on to Cialfito longer than 2 years, but he could end up being a free agent. So aside from that, what else we got? Sundin accepts. Same with Ulanov. Korliuk accepts. Erzberg is joining the AHL, which is good. So that should be almost everybody. Yeah, it is. Perfect. That was actually pretty easy. We have $13.28 million in cap space, and the only thing we really need, I think, is a backup goalie, unless we want to make some adjustments via trade. So if we look at our team on paper right now, we have 5 goalies under contract. Kind of a bit too much goalies in a way. But technically right now it'd be Solovyov and whoever we use as a backup. Then we have Schultz probably scratched in the AHL because Komatov and Nicholas. This might be the best point to trade Schultz, or we could try and use him as a backup in the NHL, but I don't really know if it's kind of a good thing to do when he's only at 75. But probably Komatov and Nicholas should run the AHL, which means Schultz either gets dealt or he could be our backup as a 75. I honestly don't even know, because Vishnevsky is definitely going to be a healthy scratch in the AHL. Defensively, we got Hounen, Tatar, Schaefer, Novoseltsev, Holmstrom, Haken, and Carlson is a depth defenseman right now. Honestly, Carlson as a depth offensive defenseman might not be that bad, but he could also end up being like Pratt, which Pratt was not the best depth defenseman when he was here, so I don't really know if I want to use Carlson as a depth defenseman, but if we do use him we wouldn't need a depth defenseman. If we don't use him, we need a depth defenseman. But one thing that's also a little bit problematic going into next season is every single one of these defensemen we have in the NHL are listed as top 4s. So that is kind of problematic. Our top 2 pairings literally listed as a top 2. So these 4, we'd have to trade away probably 2 defensemen to get them more ice time, or we just don't really care about the ice time too much and we play that as our entire top 6, and then maybe somebody like Holmstrom gets power play time, Schaefer gets power play time, Novoseltsev, Haken get penalty kill time. I'm not too sure, but we need to find ways to get all these guys as much ice time as possible if we want them all heading into next season. Now, a lot of them are also pending RFAs too in the next year or so we gotta maybe think about trading away them, or one of them, because eventually it's going to be getting too costly too. Like, Schaefer eventually is going to probably ask for a shit ton of money, so he might be the type of guy to think about flipping out, but it's not like he's been a bad player for this team either, so I'm not too sure on that. Also, Carlson could end up being a top 6 defenseman at the start of the season, which means it might push another defenseman out, considering he's got a low lead potential. So yeah, we got a lot of decisions on the defensive side of things to make still, and that's going to be up to you guys, and also I guess whatever I think of. And then from an offensive standpoint, what do we got? We have Neil Kynan and Sundin. We also have Ulanov, who's going to be maybe more as a depth option. Might be more of a fourth liner again next season. Tough to say. We also have Crane, Cialfito, Ragnarsson, Biggers, Kazanov, and maybe Mishenko. Mishenko is listed as a depth forward, so there's a realistic shot he could be NHL ready next season. He's got fantastic passing, so would be kind of nice to see this guy in the NHL level. He's only played one full AHL season at this point in time. And like I said, Kazanov is definitely making the NHL next year as like a third line kind of guy. So, yeah, we definitely have a nice little injection. We have a lot of left wing, right wings. I like that a lot too because it makes it a little bit easier when setting up your lines too. Because if you have guys that are just listed as left wingers or just right wingers, then you don't really have the luxury of flipping them in each side. But we have a lot of left wing, right wings, which is nice. The only one that really isn't is Crane. So there is that. In terms of centers, we got some pretty big ones. Mackin, Bjorkstrand, Giordano, and Leahy. Likely, we'd still be using one of these guys as a winger too. Like as a right winger. Which means Leahy would still be third line center likely. Korliuk fourth line. Which Korliuk might complain about his ice time. So there might be a chance we want to start parting away with some of these guys at some point. Now, the fact that we have so many clauses is a bit of an issue. These three guys all have no movement clauses. Leahy does have that modified part. So, if we wanted to part ways with Ronnie Leahy, we could, but he also did just come off a career year. So, I'm not too sure if I'd want to part ways with any of those guys yet. But I could see Korliuk complaining about ice time, which is not an ideal thing. So, that's one thing we got to take note of is we have a lot of good high-end talent, but we need to make sure everybody's getting that ice time that they deserve. So, not too sure how we're going to combat that, but hopefully we could make some solid adjustments. Maybe some guys have to be playing in the AHL. That shouldn't be that type of thing. All right, let's simulate to free agency anyways. See what's available. We'll also look at the trading block and stuff like that just to see if there's anything that we could maybe make a blockbuster trade for, because maybe we part ways with some players on a roster just to free up some roster room, something like that. But I don't really know who I would want to part with on this roster. Like, I'm kind of tied to a lot of these guys. Bo Horvat actually left our team. I didn't even realize the coaches didn't accept. So, yeah, we need to get back Bo if we really want to. Duras also leaves in the AHL. Maybe we'll just look for some new coaches, too. Maybe I don't need to bring back Bo. Because, like I said, maybe he brought the losing ways with him when he joined our team. So in terms of, let's actually look at the available coaches first and foremost. I know it's kind of the most boring thing, so might as well take it out of the way. Is there any interesting coaches with some good attributes? Like, we need a new associate and a new assistant, because I guess one of our coaches retired as well. So let's see. There's some A-plus coaches, so that's good. 56, 61, 61, 50. Maybe we take both those 61s? I don't even know. What is our current coach's fit? Jenks. Let's see. 64. Okay, so anything above a 64 would be excellent. Anything below that is kind of worse, but let's see. So Weber could be a nice associate or assistant. Same with McCollum. What else we got here? Any other guys that are decent in the 60s? Not really. Oh, there's another 64 here in Ryder Ward. He's actually an associate coach. So maybe Ryder Ward would be good too as a coach to join this team. Aside from that, there's another 64 in Gudis. So maybe we bring in both the 64s because they're both more actual associates, not head coaches. Or we could just bring in those 61 head coaches as assistants and stuff. But probably isn't realistic having 3 actual head coaches in your coaching staff. All right. So there is that. Now let's take a look at the available free agents. Is there any interesting names out there this year that we could potentially bring in? So let's start off with goalies because we do need a backup goalie. So I'm going to just hide my face so you guys can see the overalls and all that. But we do need a backup goalie potentially, or for sure I'd say. I don't know if I would want to run Schultz as a backup, but we could do that still. Like, I'm kind of open to that idea. But there is some backup options. I don't really know if any of these guys have had some good stats or not, but there is even guys like they're 80 overall as a backup, 897, that's probably in the AHL too. Jas actually was pretty good last year. He was on the team that beat us and won the Stanley Cup, so we could always bring in Jas as a backup goalie just because he won the Stanley Cup. That would be an upgrade from Letowski too a little bit, so maybe that's something we look into. But backup goalie is definitely something we need, I think, at least. Unless we try Schultz. From a defensive standpoint, we have a really good defensive core already. So we probably don't need to do anything in terms of signing defensemen unless we got rid of somebody on their defensive core and brought somebody else in. None of these guys are super insane, so I don't think it's any worthwhile doing. So I probably wouldn't bring any of these dudes in, to be honest. So there's that. In terms of forwards, like I said, we need to basically probably free up room. Jaskalainen is going to be testing free agency, our former right winger. Was in Toronto, got dealt to St. Louis last season. Wasn't the best, actually, in terms of like all-around points, but 10 goals in 21 games as a Blue, and then in the playoffs had no goals in 4 games before he was knocked out in the first round. So maybe that's why Toronto got rid of him, because he was not very good in their last playoff matchup as well. Still has no Stanley Cup. But there is also Schneider, which is the former Buffalo Sabre. I was looking at potentially trading for this guy a few years back. He's not an insane goal scorer, though, so I wouldn't really say he's what we need if we needed him. But he's solid. He's just not a good goal scorer, really, for his shooting attributes. So there is Elaine Schneider. Aside from that, nobody crazy on the right wing side of things. So there is all that. In terms of left wingers, Malcolm Spence is the best. Honestly, doesn't look like the best free agent crop. Like, there's some okay pieces, but nothing like elite, really. Alright. In terms of centers, what do we got? Denisov. Yeah, there's honestly not a crazy amount. Nick Suzuki's still kicking at 40 years old, which is kind of funny. Greening. John Greening. That's not a bad player for the bottom sixes grinder. Like, he could be a good fourth-line center instead of having, like, somebody like Korolyuk in that spot, but I don't know about getting rid of Korolyuk. But Greening was a plus 17 last season as a fourth-line center. That's really good. Was a first-rounder. Won the Stanley Cup as well last season. Or 2 seasons ago. We could bring some championship pedigree to our roster if we really want to. Alright. So there is that. Let's take a look at the trading block and see if there's any potential players we would trade for. But like I said, on paper, I don't really think there's a player I would want to trade on a roster. And I don't think there's a weakness on this roster either. But something needs a shake-up to get us to win. Like, we've been so good the last four of the last 5 years, but we have no cups. So we got to do something, I think, this offseason, I feel like almost. But I'm not too sure what. A lot of our players have no movement clauses, though, so that's going to hurt our chances of being able to move them. Unless we get them to waive, which is going to be harder than it looks. And also, I don't really want to get my locker room feeling pretty down, because our locker room should be still pretty good. They just might have a little bit of morale problems due to ice time or also losing in the playoffs a bit. So I don't even know if they'd want to waive their clauses or not. Like, I don't know who I would even get the waive, to be honest. Like, Bjorkstrand, maybe because of his injury consistencies or what. Like, I don't know. I feel like everybody on this team brings something different, which is good. Menard as a backup goaltender. Might not be bad as a backup. He was actually very good last year with Los Angeles. And in the playoffs, he was also pretty good, too. Benjamin Menard as a backup goalie for 1 year might be something I would look into. But he is making $5 million. But he could still be worth it. I just don't know what I would trade the Kings. I could trade them Schultz, I guess, in like a pick or something like that. If I wanted Menard as the backup. So maybe that's something we do. Instead of signing ourselves a backup, trade for one. Aside from that, there is also Pan, an offensive defenseman, $9 million. Not very good of an offensive defenseman. Only a career high 39 points last season. Yeah, he's not very good. If he was like a 60-point defenseman, that might be more intriguing. But we already have a really good offensive defenseman anyways with Houghton, so don't think we really need one. Anything else? William Eklund's dropping off a lot. Scott Ratzlaff, nah, don't need him. Pittsburgh has Pitt, Pole. What names they have? Nothing there really in San Jose either. Honestly, seeing nothing hardly on this block, which kind of sucks. Mostly prospects, which we don't really need because we already have a good prospect pool. We could bring back Pedro Hainsey as a backup, but he's listed as a starter. Was actually pretty good last year in Toronto. But, yeah, I don't feel like we necessarily need to bring him back to this organization. Utah has Dylan Gunther on the block with 1 year left. Yeah, I mean, he's still a good player. 54 points last year, 66 games. But his health last year's hasn't been good. So that's a bit problematic. I probably wouldn't bring him in because he's probably going to drop off more so. Vancouver, nothing. Vegas, nothing. Washington has nothing. And the Jets have nothing. So the only one that's kind of intriguing to me would be Menard in LA as a backup option. Like I said, if we wanted to bring this guy in, I think it should be pretty easy to do. Doesn't have a ton of value. And we could literally give them a goalie prospect like Schultz, who they actually do want. And we could literally just say, hey, you know what? We already have a lot of picks in the upcoming draft because we also have multiple seconds, multiple thirds. What if we just throw in like our own third round pick and that would get it done easily? Like we could probably get a pick back, but I wouldn't need it. So we could probably do something easily like this. We could also get them to retain too if we really want to. So I think that might be something we'd look into. That's because I don't think Schultz is going to get a chance to play here really much longer. He's been good though in the AHL, but he just he's one of those extra goalies because we have so much of them already that I feel like parting ways with him would make some sense. Especially with Nicholas jumping to the AHL this season. That's probably at least one play that we do. Aside from that, like I said, the biggest question mark to me is probably the defensive core because of the fact we have so many guys that are listed as top fours. Like, who would we part on this ways with on this defensive core? A lot of them have good value. Schaefer's value is kind of dropping off a little bit more so just because he's in the last year of his contract. And Holmstrom's a right defenseman. Like, hypothetically, I could get rid of Schaefer and Novoselicev. Holmstrom could be second pairing. Haken could be third pairing with the free agent signing. And then Carlson could be depth. Or maybe Carlton jumps up and plays with Haken. I'm not really too sure, but it's going to be tough to get guys ice time on that defensive core mostly, I think. The offensive core might be a little bit easier too. But like I said, it's hard to part ways with guys on this roster because look at the amount of clauses we got on the forward side of things. There's a lot of guys there. Defensively, there's not as much clauses intact. Like, there's one for Houghton, but that's it. So, the defensive core is easier to reconfigure. The offensive core is definitely a lot tougher. So, there's that. Anything else we need to take a look at before we end off this episode? I don't think so. I'm trying to think. Free agency, contracts. Don't think so. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our New York Islanders franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to free agency. We might sign ourselves a backup or trade for Menard from the Kings. Aside from that, I'm not too sure what else we're going to do, but I do think we need to maybe make some sort of a change up, maybe on the defensive side of things, maybe on the offensive side of things, just to kind of get this team winning games again in the postseason, because we've gotten so far in the playoffs, like I said, for the last 5 years, but for some reason, there's been always a problem about winning at Stanley Cups. So it would be nice if we could find a way to win a Stanley Cup this upcoming season. So we might have to make some sort of a big change up just to get ourselves to win that cup. So let us know down below, and I'll see you guys next time.